series on cybercrimes and issues pursuant to international laws. World Cybersecurity Forum is an internationally renowned cyber consultancy and web community founded in 2019 that aims in improving cybersecurity awareness and acts as a source of techno-legal information for professionals, students, and teenagers around the world. On 1st April 2020, World Cybersecurity Forum launched Cyber Awareness 2020 program, which is a global initiative to support emerging trends in cyber law, cybercrime, and cybersecurity. Increasing the level of cyber awareness through education and training can be an effective way to encourage the adoption of security tools, which leads to a safer use of technology. The objective of the Symposium series is to educate people about the importance of emerging cyber crimes and information technology in the digital age. STC Online is brought to you by Eastern Book Company, a publishing house of international repute and an acknowledged leader in the field of law publishing in India for more than 75 years. Eastern Book Company publishes a wide range of legal commentaries, student texts, law reports, and digests. Its products include pioneer works both in the print and electronic media. Using the finest of technological innovations, they pioneered law information databases for making law easily accessible in the electronic medium. This has appeared in a revolutionary form in the electronic medium as SCC Online's Case Finder. This information database and search program is a proven source for quick retrieval of case law precedents of Supreme Court of India. For 75 years now, SCC Online has been creating authentic and reliable legal information, legal commentaries, statutory laws, and law reports. Supreme Court cases is the most cited law report by the Supreme Court of India. All the content is there in one place, whether it's Indian, foreign, or international. SCC Online consists of the superior search capability and 4 million documents. Their legal research tool provides top quality information with an interface which makes research a quicker and more effective process. The main idea of the Symposium series, cyber crimes and the issues pursuant to international laws, is to provide a practical approach in terms of emerging cyber crimes and cyber security laws on the international level. As technology is evolving rapidly, so human beings are. And during this expedition, all are facing a lot of obstacles in all sense. This series aims to kindle the society in context to the crimes and various security issues they face to the day. This symposium evaluates the international impetus of the law reforms in combating cybercrime. It classifies actions of international harmonization into professional, regional, multinational, global actions, summarizes the major concerns of these actions, and concludes the influence of the Convention on Cyber Crimes on states and international level of legal countermeasures. The series also points out the limitations of the previous actions and anticipates the United Nations to play a more important role. Also, it will be more inclined towards the conclusive part where our honorable speaker will try to give preventive measures. This symposium included 5 sessions, and today we are ending this amazing journey with our last session, but on the promissory note that we'll be back with some more amazing content. Before moving to our today's topic, everyone is requested to keep your mics off or mute. For any communication or any queries, please write down your questions in the chat box and we'll be addressing them in the end. Our today's topic is new challenges in the AI and cloud computing, where we have invited the subject matter expert from Paris. So let's welcome Dr. Emmanuel Goffi, who is a philosopher of artificial intelligence. He's director of Observatory on Ethics and Artificial Intelligence of the Institut Sapiens in Paris, and a professor of artificial intelligence ethics at I'm sorry for my pronunciation, City School of Technology, Business and Society in Paris. Now I request Dr. Goffi to take over and enlighten us with his knowledge.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. No problem with the pronunciation. It's actually Ivan City. It's a new school here in Paris. I'm teaching in, so no problem. Thank you for having me today, talking about this really interesting topic, which is about AI and cloud computing. Obviously, because you've told that I'm a philosopher, so I will definitely tackle this issue through the lens of philosophy and ethics, more specifically. So it will not be kind of a technical, presentation about that. Just kind of some food for thought regarding the future of AI and cloud computing and the risks that we are facing with this kind of technology today, the kind of ethical issues it can raise. So I assume you're all a little bit, at least, aware of what AI and cloud computing are and the kind of issue that it can raise in our everyday lives. And this is really kind of a tough subject, definitely, for many reasons. First of all, because there is a lot of discussion around the fact that AI exists or it does not exist. We should definitely work all together, and I mean it's not really done so far on the definition of what AI is exactly and what it means exactly, because without this kind of definition, clear definition that would be shared by all stakeholders, at some point you can make whatever you want behind those two words. But obviously, defining artificial intelligence is something really difficult. First of all, because we don't know what intelligence is, even for human beings, right? So it's kind of a intractable debate that we could have about that. But that's really interesting, and please keep that in mind. Words are really, really important in this specific field and in other fields, obviously, but in this specific field, words are of utmost importance, right? So you really have to keep in mind that definitions are important. I know that lots of people do not take that into account, but definitions are here. We need them. Sometimes it's really difficult to define some words that we're using in this specific field, but we should work on that much more than we actually do. So regarding the issues that are raised by AI and cloud computing, most of the time, and this is something that I guess is shared almost all around the world, at least in international instances such as the UN or the NATO or the OECD or the European Union, we're always talking about ethical issues through the lens of some, interesting words, which are privacy, transparency, explainability, liability, ownership, security. This is all related to one thing that is really important for all of us, which is data. Data that is used by people in a way that we don't know about, really, right? And we are all concerned about the fact that those data that are stored in the cloud at some point can be used in a way that we don't want. But the problem is for all of us as users to first know how those data would be used, and second, to know how we can avoid having a misuse of our personal data, obviously. So this is mainly the way ethical issues are addressed right now. But I really want to maybe submit a new approach to you, maybe something that has not been worked on that much, unfortunately. And this is something we're working with Identity School for Technology, Business and Society. You've heard this last word, society, is really important here, because what we're trying to do is to think about the future of our societies, in plural, I would say. And the first question and the first ethical issue that I think is really important to address right now is to wonder and take some time to wonder what kind of society we want for the future and what role we want for AI in this kind of society. And this is a question that is not that much tackled, actually. I really feel that we are in a process where AI is here. We're trying to mitigate its risks. We're trying to find solutions to problems that we have created, right? But at some point, we do not really think about what's next and where do we want to go exactly. This is not only about AI. That's kind of a global issue that we have in politics. That we are taken into this fast-paced movement of AI and technology, and we do not take enough time to think about what do we want. And that's the question. I think that's one of the most pressing issue that we have to tackle with AI. AI is going really fast, and cloud computing too, right? All those technologies are here, they're already here. There is no way that we will step back from them. So we now have to deal with them. And we have to find a way to deal with them the best we can. And it's obviously kind of a big bias that we have in the reflection about AI and cloud computing ethics, because in some way we have no other choice than dealing with AI and cloud computing. They're there, right? There is no way for us to withdraw from this situation. So we have to deal with that, definitely. But when we think about dealing with AI and cloud computing, I do think that all of us, individually speaking or collectively speaking, we have to think about what do we want? What do we want? What kind of society do we want? That's really an important question. And these questions go along with another point that is also important, is responsibility. And conversely to what we hear here and there, it's not about the responsibility of AI. It's not about liability, technically speaking. It's about our responsibility as human beings, as citizens of particular countries, or for universalist citizens of the world. It is our responsibility to think about that, to raise a debate around AI, and also to think about our own behaviors regarding the use of AI. We are all concerned, once again, about data privacy and the way our data can be used by this or that actor, obviously. But most of the time, we don't think about how can we make sure that we will not provide those actors with too much data. Because most of the time we're criticizing those big tech companies in the US or even in China for using in an unacceptable way our data, but at the same time, we are providing data without thinking about it, right? Through social networks, we're providing them with lots of food for AI without thinking about it. We're all the time connected to our Facebook account, our Twitter, or our LinkedIn account, and we're providing tons of data that can be used. So it is our responsibility to think about, what do I provide those people with? Is it really relevant to provide them with personal information, knowing that at some point I will lose control over those information, and that maybe those information will be used against me at some point? So this is the big issue with AI. It's at the same time really appealing. There is something really, I would say, in a trivial way, sexy about AI, because we see that as a new technology offering lots of promising solution to our everyday lives issues. But at the same time, it's also concerning, and we all know that, because there are lots of people that are already using AI and this kind of technology in a way that goes against our interest. You know that there is a lot of money behind all that. There is a lot of things that are at stake, not only money, but also international interest, competitiveness on the international arena. There is a lot of things around diplomacy that are at stake. So obviously our personal data are definitely not at the top of the list of interest of lots of actors, public or private. So once again, one of the big questions I would definitely submit to you is, do we take enough time to think about what the next step will be? Do we take enough time to think about what, as an individual, can I do in order not to provide those big tech companies, those private and public actors with too much data? And what can I do at my own level to mitigate the risks of AI? So we all have a responsibility. That's something that has been talked about and developed a lot by philosophers, and I would definitely refer to Hannah Arendt in a specific context. Obviously it was the context of the Second World War and the Jewish situation, definitely. But this responsibility that we have as individual, or also as collective entity, I mean nations or even smaller communities here and there, we all have a responsibility. It's way too easy to just think about the responsibility of big techs. It's way too easy to think about only the responsibility of governments that are using this AI. Because at some point we're just withdrawing the burden out of our shoulders. Why we should first and foremost think about our own responsibility. It's about our responsibility in using those technologies, but it's also our responsibility when we live in a democratic country, in electing people that are really aware of the risks, that will be, we think, technically speaking, able to find good solutions and a way to use those technologies in a way that is acceptable for everyone. Another point that is really interesting regarding responsibility, I think it's something about what Ernst Jonas, the philosopher, called the imperative of responsibility. And thinking about AI, you know that there is a lot of debate about, you know, sci-fi, the sci-fi side of AI, and lots of people that are really concerned about the rise of Terminator, the kind of cyborg that could, you know, at some point destroy humanity, or even, you know, computers, big computers, Skynet computers, to take something that comes from pop culture, that could at some point take the control over humanity and at some point want to destroy it, because there would be no need to keep human beings in the loop. I know that lots of people are just thinking about that like sci-fi, so they just, you know, wipe it out with a hand, saying, "Oh, that's nothing that's nothing true, that will never happen." I would definitely insist on the fact that there is no way for anyone, even the most clever people in this world, to say that it will never happen. That's something that is totally wrong. We cannot know. We don't know. It might not happen in the near future, but it will certainly happen at some point, definitely. So the big question regarding our responsibility toward the future and what kind of society we want is, even if the probability that this kind of situation could occur in the future, near or maybe in the longer time, do we really want to take that kind of risk? Do we really want to see that happen in 2, 3, 4 generations? Is it something that we think is acceptable? And even if the probability is really low, we really have to think about it right now. I make most of the time a comparison with environment. We've not taken the environmental issues seriously enough for a long time, and now that we are in front of the wall, we are trying to find solutions to things that we've created. We actually rejected this idea that we had the responsibility, all of us, individually speaking, collectively speaking, into the degradation of the environment. And now we are in a situation where we see that it's really difficult to go back and even to stop the situation, to stop this momentum. So I don't want that to happen also with AI and technology. So it's now that we really have to think about what kind of society we want for the near future and the longer future, and 2, 3, 4 generations again. Because even if the probability is low, I'm not sure we want that. So obviously my opinion, personal opinion, does not really matter here, but we have to think about that collectively speaking. The big issue we have when we talk about responsibility is that we've been told so many times that actually we are still in control of technology, that there is no risk. And this is something that is, I don't know in India, but what I know in the Western world, and especially in the European Union, that this is something that has been highly developed. We've heard and we are hearing all the time that there will always be a human in the loop, on the loop, out of the loop, but somewhere not that far from the loop. And even the European Union is still working on this idea, making declaration about the fact that AI will remain human-centric, and that there will always be someone in control of AI. But here, I would definitely ask the question, are we really still in control of AI? Are we really still in control of technology? I would definitely say that I'm not sure of that. I would even say that I do believe really that we are no longer in control of anything. I would definitely say that we are part of this big network. We are part of this network. We are tools in the hand of, a communication department or marketing department of big techs. We are just tools. It's enough to see how we react to the small light, of our smartphone just becoming red, and we say, oh, we just have to check what it is exactly. This is a way that has been developed by sociologists and psychologists to make us really dependent on technology. And actually, those technology would not work without us as nodes in this big network. It's not only about AI, it's about technology at large. It's also about all the tech items that we're using every day. We are highly dependent on technology. Just think about one day without the internet at work. We've all experienced that at some point, and that's something we feel really lost at some point. We're lost when we don't have internet connection at home as well. So we're really highly dependent. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram would not work without us responding instantly to the notifications of those social networks system. So my question again is, are we still in control? I don't think so. I think we lost control for a long time now, and AI is taking control. When I say AI is taking control, I would nuance this because it's not totally true, right? Saying that AI is taking control over human beings would mean that AI is autonomous enough to make this kind of decision. So far, it's not the case. It will definitely happen in the future, but so far, AI is not enough autonomous to make the decision to take control over. So you always have people behind those AI tools, behind those algorithms, behind those cloud computing systems that are making decisions in order to manipulate our affects and our behaviors. So this is people that are manipulating us through AI, but AI is kind of a tool. Nonetheless, the point is, once again, that I think that there is this big myth of the control of human beings over technology that should be questioned in regards to what kind of society we want for the future. And in this specific case of the myth of control, I would definitely also warn you about something that is really important. I've talked about that many times, but it's words, the words that are used to control the way we behave. We should definitely, I've told you about that, the question of definition, we should definitely think deeper about the words that are used in the environment of AI. First of all, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we all understand what it means to some extent, but we would not be able to define what it is exactly. Obviously, if we only have a look at the idea of intelligence, it's something that is really difficult to define. It might even be impossible to define. We don't know what intelligence is. We don't know what intelligence means exactly. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, we don't really know what it is. So we have kind of a really superficial idea of what artificial intelligence is. Sometimes it can be really frightening if we think about intelligence as kind of the duplication of human cognitive capacities. It might be less concerning if we think about intelligence as just something that will reproduce through algorithms some part of human intellectual abilities. So this is where we have this situation where people are really into this kind of technology, saying, okay, look, it's not autonomous at all. It's not intelligence in the sense of human intelligence. So they're really into the development of this AI, and some other are really concerned about the fact that at some point this kind of intelligence could compete with human intelligence, with natural intelligence. So there is a big debate here about what artificial intelligence means. I've told you also about lots of words that are raised by ethical work that has been done around AI, like liability, explainability, transparency. All those words are really difficult to define too. I don't know what explainability means exactly in the case of AI, Um, I most of the time I take this example of a car, right? I'm not really good into mechanics. I'm not a handy guy. But when I go to the mechanics, I have to fix my car. Obviously, the guy will definitely open the trunk and show me all the motor and explain me lots of things about what he will do and how it works. So he's explaining the situation definitely. So explainability is here, but the big question is, am I able myself to understand what is explained to me? It's exactly the same thing with AI. You can sometimes access algorithms and you can get into what we call the black box of AI. Sometimes it's perfectly explained. You can explain things, but if on the other side people are not able to understand what you're explaining, that's pointless. You can explain whatever you want. People will not really grasp what is behind the AI, and at some point they will just try to trust you. That will be it, right? So explainability is kind of a buzzword. It's a beautiful word that is hiding the reality of things. Just, I think it's matter of liability. As soon as a big tech, for example, is saying, okay, we're explaining what's behind our AI, they just put the thing at the very end is, okay, that's now your responsibility to work on it, to understand it, right? We've done our part, do your job on your side, do your homework and work on that, try to understand it. But myself and lots of people, I think, would share exactly the same opinion is I'm not able to understand the ins and outs of AI algorithms. I'm not able of that at all. So you can explain me in big techs and private actors, public actors can explain whatever they want. I will not be able to understand fully what is behind AI. Another word that is really controversial to me is trustworthiness. We're all talking about trustworthy AI, trying to build trust in AI. That doesn't make sense. Trust is really something complex to define if you take it at the sociological level or even at the psychological level, not to mention the philosophical one. So trusting AI doesn't make sense at all. Once again, AI is not autonomous enough to be trusted. You can trust human beings, you can trust individuals because you know that there is a probability that they will not do harm against you. But regarding AI, once again, there are people behind that. So you can trust the people that are developing algorithms or AI. You can trust people that are using those algorithms and this AI, but you cannot trust AI per se. You do not trust your car. You trust people that are building your car. You trust people that are driving cars, but you do not trust the car. I would say that at some point we should all have to think about that because our affects are manipulated by those words. When I say that, I'm not saying that there is a bad intention behind the use of those words, but what I'm saying is that sometimes as human beings, we do not have the words to express complex ideas. This is where philosophy at some point can be really dry when we try to define things that are really hard, when we try to dive really deep into the concepts and those words. But even not going into philosophy, you just need to go to linguistics and people like Ferdinand Saussure, and you will think about words, what that means exactly, what a word is made of, and how we can use words. We live in a world of communication, right? And communication is really, really, really important today. And we know that all speeches, discourses, and narrative about AI are built to some extent by people that are specialists in marketing, that are special in communication. So they know exactly how to use words and which kind of words they can use in order to influence our perceptions and consequently influence our behaviors towards this or that specific tool or solution fitted with AI. So that's the first point I wanted to raise. We really have to think about what kind of society we want in the future. We really have to think about what role we want for AI in this kind of society. We really have also to think about our individual responsibility in the development, the use of AI, which is really important. I think it's kind of laziness just to put the burden on the shoulder of big tech companies or governments in the world. It's easy. It's way too easy. We really have to think about what we can do as individual. And then the second point I want to raise, the second issue I just want to submit to you is the question would be, is there really, and I mean seriously, any possibility that we could find ethical standards that could be applied all over the world by all the people in the world, by all stakeholders in AI? We are talking a lot about, ethics codes, and there are more than 300 of them right now, which is a good indicator to think about, okay, does that make sense to have more than 300 ethical codes around the world today? If there were any kind of universal value, universal philosophy, or universal ethics in the world, we should be able to have only one code of ethics regarding the use of AI. But when you look at this different code of related to AI, there are lots of studies that have been done about that. What you see is that you will find lots of values, lots of different values that are put in the forefront of those ethical codes. And obviously, you will have ethical codes for companies that are selling a product. Their ethical codes will definitely not be the same as NGOs that are protecting, for example, privacy or humanity. So the big question is it really serious to think that at some point we will be able to have one ethical standard for the use of AI? Here, I would definitely say that it's really a utopian perspective. That's totally impossible, I think. First of all, because most of the time we don't know that, but ethics is not singular. It's really plural. I like to use Paul Ricoeur, the French philosopher, definition or explanation about the difference between ethics and morality. And Paul Ricoeur is telling us that morality is about all the rules, the set of rules that are applicable by one society, one community. Okay, and if you look just before those rules, you will find ethics, which is the study of how those rules have been set and how those rules have been created at some point. And after moral, you have ethics in the plural sense, which is how do we apply those moral rules in specific situation. What that means is that at some point there is as many ethics as there are human beings on earth. And much more than that, sometimes there are also ethics that are related to specific communities, specific companies, specific institutions. So there are thousands, millions of ethics all around the world. And this is something I've raised lots of time. It is obvious to me that the way we see ethics in Europe is definitely not the same as the one you guys in India are seeing ethics. It's not the same as the way China is understanding what is ethical and what is not. That's not the same as lots of countries in Africa are understanding what is acceptable, what is not acceptable at the ethical level. I would say that culture here is of utmost importance. We really have to think about the role of culture in the setting of ethical standards and moral standards. What I can see so far is that we are not creating or building our ethical standards on the same grounds. And what I see also is that the Western perspective is too much present in the debate. And there is a lack of perspective from countries like India. There is a lack of perspective from countries from Southern America. There is a lack of perspective from Asia. We would need much more debate about the cultural aspect and side of ethics. We should definitely raise a strong debate, and I think the UN, the United Nations, would be the best forum for that. We should raise this question about, is it possible in a way, in a world of diversity, and we all value diversity at some point, in a world of diversity, is it really serious? Is it really believable that we will find a universal standard? So far, all the normative frameworks that have been created are not accepted by the whole world. They might be signed or accepted by governments, but that doesn't mean that citizens of those governments will abide by those laws, that they will accept them, that they will think that they're relevant. And we know also that even when you sign an agreement, when you sign an international law or of kind of an international framework, it doesn't mean that you really agree with the content of it, right? What we're seeing now with AI and cloud computing is that even if there are some kind of, normative framework, which is definitely insufficient, there is no consensus around what is AI and what the standards should be. Once again, there is a lot behind that is at stake. Lots of money, and a lot of diplomatic issues, concerns that are behind that. So no one is really prone or keen in just constraining itself by rules. This is where ethics is really interesting. It's really flexible and can be used in the way you want. It's not like a law, right? So ethics is kind of a buzzword that is used in order to compensate the fact that there is not that much law framing the use and the development of AI. So culture should be at the core of the debate about AI. And once again, I would definitely call you in non-Western countries to just have your word, have your say into the debate, and bring your own perspective, your own opinion on what is acceptable and what is not. Because once again, I think that the West is too much present in the debate. And there, the point is also that because we are really present in the West in the debate, we are shaping the perceptions around AI the way we want. Once again, using words that are really disputable, that we should discuss, that we should question. But what we've created in the field of AI is kind of what I've called a cosmetics. Cosmetics is kind of a superficial ethical makeup that we all put on controversial situations in order to make them much more appealing than they are really. Cosmetics it's a way to hide with false ethics, really bad situation. When we talk about trustworthy AI, when we talk about trust, what we are hiding is the fact that whatever your level of trust is, you will never know how your data will be used, because you don't know what the intentions of the people that have developed those algorithms and this AI are at the very beginning. So we are trying to create a world in which everything seems really beautiful. We are developing trustworthy AI, we're working on responsibility, we are working on liability, we are raising debates about privacy, transparency again. But at the very end, we see that problems are still there, concerns are still the same, and nothing does not really, move in a way that makes AI better than it is really. So we're adding the world, those black boxes and the risks behind words that are really beautiful, but that are not representing any kind of reality. So this is something that we really have to be aware of. Cosmetics is based on words, and this cosmetics can be definitely a big concern if we don't question it, if we don't go beyond the words. So just to finish with that, once again, we can obviously go into very technical aspect. We can go to really specific aspect of ethical issues raised by AI and cloud computing, such as privacy, liability, ownership, security of data. But I think that we first have to think about the context, the environment. We have to think about the big picture before even going deep into those questions. We have to think about, once again, what kind of society do we want? And I mean, I don't mean the society like a universal society or a cosmopolitan society, because I don't think that's relevant here. I think we all have, as national communities, and maybe within national communities, small communities, think about what kind of society do we want? If we want that at some point technology would take control over human beings, that's okay, just go ahead with that. But we have to make sure that this is exactly what we want. We have to think about it. And this thought cannot stem from government debate. It must stem from our debate as individuals participating in something that is bigger than just government debates. We have to be part of the debate. We have to bring our say into this. So this is the first thing, once again, I want to raise. The second one is to think about when we want to frame AI and the future of AI, both in the ethical side and the legal side. We really have to think if it is relevant, if it is feasible to reach kind of universal standard for the whole world. So these are the two big issues. This is obviously not easy, and there is lot of work to be done by all of us. But once again, I call all of you guys and the whole world to be part in this kind of questioning about the role of AI in the future. Thank you for your attention, and I would definitely be pleased to take questions if you have some.
Thank you so much, sir. We already do have few questions for you. It would be great if you could help us answer them. The first one is, what is the role of artificial intelligence in cloud computing?
The role? You said the role of AI?
Role of artificial intelligence in cloud computing.
Oh, the role of actually AI works is fed by data, right? So when you're putting data in the cloud, I mean, when you're using your computers, when you're using your smartphones, you're putting data somewhere that is outside of your own computer, on your own items. So the point is that at some point, those data will be used by AI to make decisions, to help actors to make decisions. It will help, for example, big techs to be really specific in the marketing that they will do toward you. You know that when you are on YouTube, when you're on Amazon, you have really specific ads that are made, and this is where AI is used at some point, is to use those data that we're providing the cloud with, and for the sake of the interest of big tech companies, or private and public actors.
So the next question is, what are the types of artificial intelligence and what are the planning techniques of AI?
Can you repeat that? I just have some kind of...
What are the types of artificial intelligence and what are the planning techniques of artificial intelligence?
Oh, artificial, actually, it's really hard to make a full list, an exhaustive list of what kind of artificial intelligence is now on the market. I would say that artificial intelligence is used in all aspects of human lives, right? You can use AI in the health industry. There is AI in defense and security industry. There is AI in marketing. There is AI in education. So AI is used really widely, and that's where AI can be really concerning, is that actually we're surrounded by AI. We're using AI all the time without even knowing it, right? We are even to some extent used by AI. So AI is almost everywhere. When you're using, once again, in the best example is your smartphone. AI is there in your smartphone, right? So it's AI has a really wide range of uses that would definitely be difficult to make, once again, a full list of them.
So the next question is, if artificial intelligence creates an invention, under whose name the patent will be filed?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Actually, I would say I don't know, because so far artificial intelligence is not a legal entity, and there is no legal status for artificial intelligence. Lots of people are thinking about it. and even the European Union is thinking about a legal status for robots, that would be fitted with artificial intelligence at some point, which would say that if we're able to create robots that would be fitted with artificial intelligence that are they're a prediction of human intelligence, they would go with definitely a legal status. So far, the responsibility goes to the creator of the algorithm, the artificial intelligence. It also goes to the user, the developer. So it's really diffuse into kind of a really wide chain of stakeholders in AI. But AI per se will not definitely be held responsible for anything.
So the next question is, how can young professionals prepare and upskill themselves for the rise of AI?
Really interesting question, because this is exactly what has given birth to identity, the School for Technology, Business, and Society. We do think, and I do think that and that's why I'm part of this great adventure with identity, is that young professionals should definitely have a really wide understanding of what AI is. Most of the time, AI is addressed or tackled only through the technological aspect of it, right? In schools, you're doing technology, you're doing programming, you are just trying to develop your computing skills without thinking about the consequences on society of what you're doing. And in identity, what we're trying to do is just to think about, okay, if you work on the AI field, you have to be able to understand the technology. You have to be able to see how it will be used in the business or the market and in the business environment. But you also have, and that's the most important point, to think about the consequences, the potential consequences of the use and the development of those technology. So the best way to prepare yourself as young practitioners in the field of AI is to have this huge spectrum of understanding about AI, not focusing only on one aspect of the other, not working only on philosophy of AI, not working only on how to implement AI in your business, and not only how to program algorithms, but just have to make links, inferences between all those fields and try to understand the big picture. Once again, it's all about the big pictures. I've told you that we really have to think about the kind of society we want to go to. This is part of it. If you're really focused on one aspect of it, you will lose sight of the societal impact of the development of AI. So you really have to bring that all together and to make connections with what we're doing at the technological level and what we are expecting at the societal level.
So then another question is, how do we make sure that people who are creating artificial intelligence do not put their identities into the machine? The attendee has also given an example that facial recognitions of only accurate white males, for example.
I would say that there is no way to know how data and information will be used at some point, because once again, I don't think that we are in control of that as users. The only people that are in control of that are programmers or users or sorry, developers. But definitely us as users, we're not able to have any kind of control about that. The only thing we can do, once again, at our individual level, is to avoid providing social networks with too much data, by providing those social networks or even the big tech with information that is really private. But I would say that's almost impossible at some point. You know that because when you're, for example, you're navigating on the net and then you're buying through the internet, you will be asked to accept cookies. And the problem is that if you do not accept cookies, you cannot use the website. So at some point you will have to accept cookies without even thinking about it. So you're providing personal information about your location, about the kind of computer you're using, about the kind of product that you're looking for or even buying. This is where, once again, I do think that we do not have control over this kind of technology, that I don't even think that now developers or programmers have control over that. We've heard a lot about people that were working in those, the US big techs that are now that have left those big techs and that are now trying to warn us about the risks. And they're saying we're creating something we do no longer have control on, right? And we're really concerned about the fact that this actually, this technology is now almost free from human beings' control, right? We are still there, obviously, but at some point we're creating something that goes really beyond our control.
So the next question is, if AI is taking control, how do we manage its autonomy in future?
If AI is what?
If AI is taking control, how do we manage its autonomy in future?
Big question first is to define what autonomy means exactly. Once again, it's all about words. It's all about definition. I know that it can be really dry, but I've had this experience working with the UN on what we call the lethal autonomous weapons, the killer robots. And we've had this discussion between experts saying, okay, what is exactly autonomy? As a philosopher, I would definitely refer to Emmanuel Kant's volition principle. But if I talk with engineers, they will see autonomy as different level of automation. And if you talk about autonomy with psychologists, they would definitely have a different perspective. So we don't know what autonomy means exactly. There is no clear definition about autonomy. But at some point, if AI would reach the point where they would have the same autonomy as us human beings, I would say we would not have any kind of control over that. But even us as human beings, the big question, that's a philosophical question, but also a sociological question, is do we really have any kind of autonomy? Are we autonomous beings? Not sure of that. Once again, when we look at the way we react to technological, solutions, at some point we feel like we're no longer autonomous. When we see how we are manipulated by marketing tools, by communication, I don't feel that we're autonomous. When I see how we're constrained by our, national or communities standards or moral values, I don't think we're autonomous. But yeah, there's if at some point AI would reach this point, that would be really, really problematic for humanity.
Looks like our attendees are very intrigued. We also have another question. What are the disadvantages of artificial intelligence in our daily life?
Disadvantages. I don't see any kind of disadvantages of AI. What I see is mainly risks of AI. I would not say that AI is kind of a tool like any other kind of tool. We're talking about AI as something that is really risky, but most of the time I also raise the concern that I have with cars. Cars is a technology, are technologies, right? Technological tools. And they have shaped the way we live, the way we think, the way we work, because now we're able to work away from our living place. We are able to drive 4 hours just to do shopping because it will be cheaper. We've created this kind of huge network of streets, roads, and we've created new cities just because car is here. So car is shaping the way we think. Car is shaping the way we behave. So I would not say that it's a disadvantage. I think that it's like any kind of technological tool that we've created so far, is that we don't think enough about the consequences, the bad consequences of it. And some time because of once again, really economic consideration, we just try to avoid the big questions. We try to avoid the societal questions about that. We are focused on the technology. We are focused on the financial interest or economical interest of it, but we do not think about the societal impact, because if we think about the societal impacts of technologies, at some point we'll see that we're creating things that just destroying our environment. We've seen that technology is really great, definitely, but if we have now environmental issues, it's partly due to the fact that we have not thought enough about the impact of those technologies that we're developing.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering all the questions and for such an insightful session. Is there anything else you would like to mention?
No, I think really, once again, I would call to all of us to take our responsibilities in all that. We are currently using AI, we are currently using technology, and we see the advantages of that, and especially in this period of COVID-19. So just think about that. Think of what we are providing all those systems with. And my last words, because we are in a health situation that is really problematic, is that just take strong care of all yourselves and try to protect yourself against this virus.
So we all are very grateful. Thank you for sparing our time for us and our attendees.
Thank you for having me. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining in. For more such updates, please follow us on our social media handles. We also have a WhatsApp group and Telegram channel. And please kindly fill in your the feedback forms for internships with World Cybersecurity Forum. Please send your CVs to the email ID I'll mention in the chat box. Thank you so much, everyone. Please fill in the feedback form and you guys can leave the meeting.